Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland. It's Casual Friday. Want to welcome back to the program Kyle Kulinski, host of the Crystal Kyle and Friends show and the Kyle Kulinski show. Kyle Kulinski, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just got to say, because of the ad I just did, folks are writing in about making sure that you use a GFCI outlet for anything that is near water in your bathroom. And yes, I think we all know that. That's an obvious thing.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yes,
I did not know that, and I would have electrocuted my butthole, but thanks for telling me.
There you go. Be careful.
You know, what this show needs is more bidet talk. That's what the show needs.
I think it's got to be, I think those outlets, though, honestly, it's code at least 24 inches. Anything within 24 inches of water has got to be a one of those outlets because it has an automatic circuit breaker.
They'll get rid of that rule soon, too, though. They're working on deregulating that as we speak.
Exactly. We don't need those type of regulations.
That's how you're going to die, Sam. Electrocuted on the toilet from your bidet.
I can think of a lot worse ways to go. All right, let's get into this. We're watching, of the many things that were horrific in that bill that passed a week or two ago, the immigration thing, I think, is going to be the thing that we feel most dramatically over the coming, 6 months. I mean, ICE right now has something like, what was the number of employees that work at ICE? I had this here. It is fascinating to see how dramatic this budget, 20,000 employees at ICE right now. They're going to increase the size of ICE by 50%. They are pulling guys who worked in like major crimes unit at ICE, like dealing with, cartels and big drug runners. They're pulling them off now to arrest moms or grandmothers. What are you anticipating with this, Kyle?
I mean, I'm anticipating what we're seeing now ramped up tenfold. I think that with a budget of like $170 billion, they're not exactly hiding the fact that I think they're going to start very openly and brazenly going after not only legal immigrants as they already are, but I think American citizens. I mean, Trump has openly said multiple times that we got the homegrowns. We got to get rid of these homegrowns. They're a problem. And so we already got a report that about 70 American citizens were deported in Trump's first term. And I would venture a guess that we're at least at a couple hundred or maybe over 1,000 already because he's treating ICE like his Gestapo. That's what it is. Now the ICE budget is bigger than like the Israeli military budget. What are you planning on doing with all those personnel? And by the way, they're also like deputizing Proud Boys and white nationalists to be the ICE Gestapo. They're pulling over random cars on a Tennessee highway. I covered a story on that recently. And I mean, you see what they're doing. They're going into doctors' offices and Walmarts and Home Depots, and just expect this in every city. Trump's now saying the next ones are New York and DC, where he's going to try to do the same sort of federal crackdown like we're witnessing in LA right now.
It's sort of fascinating to me. We were talking to someone from LA Taco, which was a online like foodie site focused on tacos and community reporting that have basically become a clearinghouse for all of these reports about ICE and all of the stuff that's happening in LA. And the host, Memo, I can't remember his last name, but Memo Torres was talking about how like so much of this stuff does not get reported outside of even just their website, never mind on the local news. And that to me is sort of shocking. I mean, when you think about how much the Trenta Agua, which we never hear about anymore, all of a sudden they just, melted away. But how much we heard about that versus, what is actually happening in terms of so-called criminal enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is truly, truly difficult to keep up because every day there's another like 12 different absolute horror stories. I mean, I'm still thinking of the 288 people who were rounded up and sent to a concentration camp in El Salvador. No due process whatsoever. 90% of them have no criminal record whatsoever. Somebody had a tattoo for his brother with autism, and they said it was a gang tattoo, and they sent him there. Somebody had a mom and dad tattoo, and they said that's a gang tattoo, and they sent him there. I mean, how many stories like this are out there now? We just got word that we already have an innocent person who was sent to Alligator Alcatraz, as they call it. A person had no criminal record whatsoever. They didn't fill out, they like forgot to fill out one form for their immigration paperwork, and now they're being sent there. And look, I mean, I think they're going to continue down this path, and they're going to create more effectively concentration camps. If you are throwing out due process, throwing out habeas corpus, rounding up whoever you want and locking them up, then there's no other thing to call that but a concentration camp. So, I mean, I truly fear for the future of this country. I don't see how we get out of this without having basically like new Nuremberg trials and locking up Stephen Miller and locking up Kristi Noem and returning rule of law, because this is the most lawless thing I've ever seen. I mean, this is like looking at what Bush did overseas. This is like the imperial boomerang, where now it's come back to our country, and they're even escalating it here.
Yes, it's, I think, really important to put it in the context of the war on terror. You know, we would not be in this situation if, well, first of all, ICE was a creation of like the post 9/11 world war on terror kind of expansion of the surveillance state and of like federalizing this kind of policing. But it is a failure of the Democrats, who didn't seek accountability for the war criminals in the Bush administration, and who kind of continued this level of just rolling back of rights, or didn't at least aggressively attempt to curtail it. And we're in this situation in part because of the expansion of the national security state after 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats, you know, refusing to prosecute Bush, refusing to prosecute Cheney, making torture just a matter of opinion. Obama saying we look forward, we don't look backwards. That then made it just a difference of opinion as to whether or not your administration tortures. And now we've gone further than that. And now it's, when it comes to due process and habeas corpus, that's just a matter of opinion. And I guess the thing that shocks me the most is the lack of the hair on fire approach. I mean, this truly is a hair on fire moment. And the immigration numbers are plummeting for Trump, even with the Democrats not talking much about immigration, which showed, now imagine they also were fighting hard on that. I honestly think the media, some of the media coverage of Kilmar Brego Garcia was a lot of what led to those numbers going 100%. The direction they did, because that was one that
Chris Van Hollen going down there.
Yeah. And God bless him for it. And God bless any Democrat who is fighting on this. But I still think there's many Democrats at the top of the party who feel like, let's tread carefully, because this is generally an issue where Trump had higher poll numbers. And so we don't want to step on any toes.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, I just wanted to, because I do want to pivot to that conversation. But I just also want to say, like, you know, you look at those images of ICE essentially attacking that soccer field and successfully intimidating the cones that were on there. And I think the net looked like they were going to go the straight and narrow. And surely those kids at that playground were terrified. But if you look at the gear that they're using, like, I mean, they look like they could be walking down the streets of Fallujah. And it's like, where are the, like, why? Like, you know, like, why are they, this is such an industry. And it's so much of that, like you say, the imperial blowback. This is all came from programs where used equipment or overbought equipment for the military during the Iraq War. There was a specific program set up to send it back to police departments. And now it's almost like it's not even a special program. It is just part of the whole thing. We're going to gear these guys up like they're going into an active firefight. And I'm sorry, there's no protest that makes this equipment necessary. There's no rolling up on a guy with a weed whacker or a, you know, mom working at a taco truck that requires this kind of gear. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And it's insane how there doesn't seem to be any, like, you know, pushback. You've got, we were just listening to that report from California, and on one hand, you know, ICE officers are worried about their safety. Are you kidding me?
I mean, it's at the point now where the cruelty and the sadism is the point, right? Like, they've raided schools and meat packing facilities and farms and Home Depots and 7-Elevens, and they deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer and no medicine. A woman was arrested immediately after she gave birth. A U.S. Marshal was arrested. I mean, like, it's a horror show is what it is. And if this doesn't really motivate all of us to get up and do something about it, I don't know what will. I did just see a video of when they tried to raid that farm in California.
Yep.
There was a whole bunch of people really trying to stop it. They tried to block the car with the road. There was a bunch of people throwing rocks at the ICE car. The ICE officers, they brought in a freaking helicopter for some reason to land it on a farm. Like, it's very disturbing. And I'm curious what you guys think. Who is more driving the car? Because every now and then Trump will say, like, we're going to protect the hotel workers. We're going to protect the hotel workers. We're going to protect, he has like 2 or 3 different types of immigrants that he's seemingly nominally okay with. But then, like, the same day or the next day, there will be a massive raid on the facilities that he said we were going to protect those immigrants, which makes me feel like Stephen Miller is actually the one
100%
calling the shots, and driving the car,
He's outsourced domestic policy, I think, functionally to Stephen Miller, and I'm
not convinced he has an outsourced foreign policy too. I mean, if you look at that signal chat with that leaked in terms of that strike against the Houthis, it was Stephen Miller who came in and said, the boss wants this done. When there was a question, he was the one who came in and everybody deferred to as to whether we were going ahead with that attack. And so I think it is Stephen Miller, and I don't think Trump cares, frankly.
No,
because he knows he can go out and say this stuff, and it makes him even look even better. Like, we'll get to the Epstein stuff, but I think it's Stephen Miller for sure. But regardless, it's Trump. I mean, it's Trump. Yeah. It's Miller. At the end of the day, it almost doesn't matter. It's really just more why would people listen to what Trump says as opposed to like the observable truth that exists every day? Yeah. Because this guy does, he talks out of his ass. He'll say anything at any given point.
It's amazing how not only how evil they are, but also how incompetent they are. Crystal was just telling me that there were 2 different teams that were sent to negotiate with Venezuela. And the teams didn't know that there were other people from the U.S. government representing the Trump administration negotiating with Venezuela. So they had 2 separate deals they were working on. And then I guess they figured out eventually, like, oh, wait, only one of us is supposed to be doing this. You saw this with Hegseth, too, when Trump temporarily cut off the weapons to Ukraine. Apparently, Hegseth made that call. And then now Trump stepped in and is resending the weapons. It's like, not only are they evil, but they're also completely and utterly incompetent. And it's like, it's just so scattershot how they're approaching governing.
Yeah, and it's in part because they're responding to the whims of somebody who's absolutely out of his mind. And like, I think in terms of him outsourcing policy to Stephen Miller like this, you have to wonder if he's begun. We know he knows he's lying regularly, but he has to start to believe some of his own spin because there's nobody around him that's telling him anything different. I mean, when he goes out and says we're not cutting Medicaid. And right. the big ugly ass bill just destroys the program. It destroys it. Like, how do you explain that disconnect? It's either just basically his complete insanity and disconnect from reality, or he's surrounded by a bunch of conspiracy theorists who give him false information that gets him to believe and work backwards from his conclusion.
I think he's so used to lying that it's like lie inflation. The lies get like more and more absurd to the point where he's telling people like it doesn't cut Medicaid at all. You got to protect Medicaid. There was a report that he was talking to House Republicans telling them one thing you never do is cut Medicaid. And this was at the same time he was pitching the big, beautiful bill, which destroys Medicaid. And so it is so hard for me to wrap my mind around this. I mean, I say this on my show all the time. If the Republicans say they're going to do something good, they're lying. They're going to do something bad. If they say they're going to do something bad, they're telling the truth. They're going to do that bad thing. That's what it's become now.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Democratic leadership because the polling, you're right, the polling, and there's a new poll out from Gallup. 30% say immigration should be reduced. That is down from 55% last year. It is a 25-point shift on whether immigration numbers should be reduced. 79% say immigration is a good thing for the country, which is an all-time high. 17% say it's a bad thing. That's an all-time low. And that has changed. It was in 2024. I mean, that's gone up by like almost 15 points in the past year in terms of whether immigration is a good thing. Allowing immigrants, essentially DACA, to stay in the country, shot up by only about 4 points, but that's at 85% approval. Allowing immigrants to get a path to citizenship is at 78%. Significantly expanding the border wall with Mexico, 53% in 2024, now down to 45%. Deporting all immigrants who are living in the United States illegally back to their country, 47% in 2024, 38% in 2025. Like you say, this has been with not a Democratic Party that is just AWOL on this issue. They have been chasing the Republicans. Like their argument is, we're going to do what they're doing. It's just going to be, you can trust us more. There is no immigration policy that the Democrats have that is articulable in contrast to the Republican policy, because it's basically the same thing, just being more polite about it.
And I just want to add one more number to this, because I think it's really important. On Trump specifically, in Gallup, it's 35% approve of his handling on immigration specifically, 62% disapprove, and 45% disapprove strongly. Those are incredibly hard numbers of disapproval for him on this issue in particular. There you go. Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time I've heard Democrats make a positive affirmative case for immigration, which is like really not that difficult a thing to do. I mean, the economy absolutely needs it. If you just mass deport 4% of the population, the economy absolutely implodes. In my experience, these are some of the best people that are in this country. They work hard. They take care of their family. They're incredibly polite. They're law abiding. You know, the numbers are what they are in terms of their criminals at a much lower rate. These are like very basic things, and I never hear the Democrats say it, which means that the public has moved on this solely as a result of the horrors of the pictures and the videos that are coming out of the military invading LA and ICE harassing innocent people with masked thugs. By the way, why are they wearing masks? They're wearing masks because they know fundamentally what they are doing is illegal. What they are doing is immoral. And so I got to say, though, my feeling on this is that I'm kind of pissed overall because, I look at it like, you guys didn't know Trump was going to do this? Like, you didn't know Trump was going to do this. It always was going to be as ugly as it is. I mean, they were holding up mass deportation now signs at the RNC. Trump was out there saying, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets. That was in reference to legal immigrants, legal Haitian immigrants. That was the sign, hey, we're not just going after gangsters, we're not just going after criminals. By the way, that's not a novel idea. Any president of any party wants to go after, violent criminal undocumented immigrants first. And so it's sort of like, I'm kind of frustrated. It almost reminds me of this, like Rogan's been doing this too. Like, can you believe that they're going into Home Depots and taking people out? Yes, I can. How did you not see it? So I almost want to shake these people back to reality, but at the same time,
they got their tax cuts. They got their tax cuts, True. And now they've grown a conscience about this kind of thing.
I think. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Sam.
Well, the thing that frustrates me here is that you see Trump's numbers cratering on this. You see the American public shifting their perspective on this, and what political party is situated to benefit from this?
Right.
You would think it would be the opposition party, but no, there's nowhere to land here. I mean, it's fascinating. You're just basically like, it is such an abject failure on the part of Democratic leadership to articulate a position. There is such a fear on this topic. And we have seen last time that Trump was in office, and then it changes because the Democrats don't have any type of pushback on this. This is frankly, I'm quite convinced it's, we're going to see the same thing with trans opinion polling as well. When there is an absence of an opposition party's position that is actually trying to litigate against this, you're not always going to be winning on every single day. But at one point, because it's the right thing, you're going to win ultimately, but they're not positioned to benefit from the cratering of this stuff. It just makes them look weak, which is, if you start to look at like the polling on the Democratic Party, you'll see stuff like too woke or something like this, but you will see weak. You will see weakness. And this is a lesson the Democrats, have not sort of absorbed from back from like, when Bill Clinton was like, strong and wrong is better than right and weak. And, but right and strong is also even better than that.
Right. That's the best case scenario. It's crazy to me because Democratic elected officials seem to think that polls are like this stagnant thing that can't change, that you need to like sort of hop on and ride the wave. But Republicans look at polls and think like, oh, we could just bulldoze ahead, make a bunch of arguments, double down on it, and move the poll numbers in our direction. And it really speaks to, a fundamental core of not really believing in much or caring that much. Like, I think Trump and Stephen Miller actually genuinely, sincerely despise immigrants. Like, they are truly, in their core, they are white nationalists. And I think a lot of Democratic politicians, I mean, they're fine with immigrants, but fundamentally they don't care. They're not going to like go to bat for them. They're not going to like make a strong argument for them. And that's where you have this vacuum that is filled with the right, whether it's Republican politicians or right-wing media is amazing at this, where they all get on the same page and have the same talking points and push them out there. And you just don't see that mirrored on the Democratic side. It's more like hands off and almost like let Trump hang himself, which, to be fair, works to some extent, but it would work a lot better if, as he's hanging himself, you also clobber him over the head with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. Well, it also would create some durability if you do win in those instances, because the next day Trump is elected out of office, people are looking to like, what's your policies? And we're like, well, it's sort of like what Trump's was. But the thing about the polling is interesting because this has been around for a long time. During the Bush administration, there was a journalist, I think his name was Ron Susskind. It escapes me at the moment, but I think it was Ron Susskind, who was interviewing a lot of like Bush officials. And one of them said to him, like, your problem is you're part of the reality-based community. And the idea being that like, you feel like you're constrained by, what people's perspectives are now. We create our own reality by pushing forward. Now, some of that can be completely insane, but the idea that, but the fundamental premise that people's perspective on things fluctuates and is contextual, and it can move with new information or a reiteration of old information. It's like the Democratic Party doesn't believe in that, or for some, it's, I don't know. I just don't want to contest on that level, but you don't always get to choose what issues you want to contest on. You're the opposition party. You got to contest on it. But you were making this point too about these guys, Rogan, like I had no idea they were going to be doing this. And these voters who are like, what? I thought it was just going to be criminals who get thrown out. This notion of like of that Democrats are running from what they perceive as wokeness and running from like immigration rights. I'm convinced that in the polls that a lot of those guys, the men that the Democrats are so worried about, the white men they're so worried about losing or having lost, when they say woke, they're just saying weak. Like they're just like, weakness is what I think people are responding to. The Democrats don't seem to stand for anything, and don't seem to stand for things that are even marginally considered unpopular.
Yeah, and I think at this moment, what we're witnessing is a massive vibe shift where now it's no longer cool and edgy to be pro-Trump. And so the Democrats are sort of reaping the rewards of that without even having to say anything or do anything, because Trump is, of course, hanging himself on the Epstein stuff and bombing Iran and all these different things. And so now everybody who was riding hard for Trump before the election, they look like the rubes that they are. And so that's why you're sort of seeing, and I know you want to get to this in a minute, Sam, but you're sort of seeing a U-turn among, the pod bro sphere.
Oh, yeah. Let's play this clip. Let's play this clip of, what do we have? Schultz, right?
Yeah. I mean...
Now, at least he had the, and this is a function of, like, it seems like the Epstein stuff was the straw that broke the camel's back, which is just, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, let them fight. And if I can throw fuel onto that fire, I will do it. But That's the thing that you feel betrayed upon. Here's Schultz is the latest of these type of sort of like manosphere broheims who have decided that they're no longer on Team Trump.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
So we're stupid.
Yeah.
we're the fucking idiots, guys. That is, I think, what is enraging people right now is it's insulting our intelligence. Like, obviously the intelligence community is trying to cover it up. Obviously the Trump administration is trying to cover up. Something changed because they ran on this idea of exposing it all. All these guys had great ideas. Cockeyed Cash, Dan
He had clips, dog. He had bars.
He was ready to tear it all down. He was ready to tear down the entire FBI office.
Shut down the Hoover building day one. Them bitch still standing.
And then he goes on Joe Rogan and he's like, listen, do you think if I had it, I wouldn't share it with you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I do believe that 100%, especially when you're staring at me like this, telling me that. Once you protect pedophiles, you are the most cockeyed person in the entire world.
So one of two things, in my mind, is possible. One, you're covering it up. Or two, nothing really happened and you exploited the rape of thousands of children to get your man elected. So which one do you want here?
Okay, go into 15. I want to play 15 and 16 too, because 16 is where he's basically like claiming like, I didn't vote for any of this.
Here's 15 then.
15's good because this backs up your point, Sam, about how when they say woke, they mean weak. Andrew Schultz here basically says there's some people in the Democratic Party, or at least associated with the Democratic Party, who he doesn't think are weak, or they put America first.
The only party right now that to me seems America first is the Democrat Socialist Party.
Yep.
Bernie is America first. Mamdani and all his ideas that he will not be able to execute, and I frankly think many of them are not good ideas, but he is no doubt New York first. The policies seem to want to help people here. That's what I care about. If MAGA wants to take this America first thing back, they got to start looking out for America, and it doesn't seem like they're doing. Lying to Americans is not America first. There is one lie, which is Epstein did not have a blackmail ring on all these very influential people. And by saying that that didn't happen, you have to tell a lot of other little lies. Every one of them just pulls a little piece of thread away from the fabric. And we're starting to see right through right now, and it's just embarrassing.
Okay, let's just play this last clip. I mean, as the sort of like end the saga here. But let's play it. We'll talk about it.
I feel very value-tained, I gotta say.
People that like, they'll DM me and be like, you see what your boy doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for.
Yeah.
I want him to stop the wars. He's funding them. I want him to shrink spending, reduce the budget. He's increasing it. It's like everything that he said he's going to do, except sending immigrants back.
Okay, so
what is that even? Of course they're deporting. What is he talking about? They're deporting massive numbers of people.
Oh yes, no, he's saying that's the only thing that he has actually done that I am glad that.
Okay.
Which is ironic because somehow Joe Rogan didn't get that message, but Schultz did. But I mean, part of the problem with like coming up with the left's Joe Rogan is that people who do this on the left actually spend the time to understand what they're talking about. And they can't just go out there and say shit that is absolutely bat crap, crazy and inaccurate and stupid because they know better. And it's, I mean, I don't know. I have to revert to like junior high to get to that level of sort of miscomprehension of what's going on. And that's just, I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're not just bullshitting.
So I would describe Schultz and all the people in this like podcast space, the Rogan sphere, I guess you could call it. They are first and foremost wave riders and what I call narrative humpers. And what happened was basically like to put it simply, they're grifters. And so the vibes have now shifted so thoroughly against Trump that they feel like, well, we got to sort of go where our audience is going. Because I don't know if you guys experienced this. I've certainly experienced it. There was a time where you scroll through Twitter and it's nothing but right-wing slop all day long. And now you scroll through Twitter and everything I see is some left-winger or some liberal just absolutely hammering Trump over the head. There's way more memes and funny memes now on the left than there are on the right. Clearly, Trump has, destroyed this country in just 6 months with every horrible decision. He hasn't done a single thing that's positive, and that's all catching up. So now, like, the vibes online are definitely anti-Trump, and they're now realizing, man, we hitched our wagon to this guy, and he's taken us all down. So they feel like they have to shift in order to keep some credibility. So, but here, the other thing you got to look out for is this, though. And we've already seen this with Alex Jones and Rogan himself and many others, is like, they say this now, but what are they going to be saying in a week? What are they going to be saying in 3 weeks? The second Trump gives them some other BS head fake where he says something that they like the way it sounds, all of a sudden it's back to, he's the anti-establishment guy. Maybe he's actually going to deliver on some of this stuff. I mean, Alex Jones did a 180 on the Epstein thing where he was saying, actually, it was Biden and the deep state. They actually destroyed all the Epstein files. Day one, he was crying and puking over Trump betraying him. Day two, it was like, actually blame the Democrats. It's the Democrats who got rid of it, and it's not Trump at all. And so that's the other thing you have to watch out for with these charlatans.
Emma's made the point that Schultz had a clip where I can't remember what context.
Yeah, well, he said like why he was supporting Trump, and this backs what you're saying about the narrative humpers and the vibe, like, oh, because the Republicans fuck, like the Republicans fuck now, and like the Democrats used to fuck, and now the Republicans are the ones with the. He was like, Trump has multiple baby mamas. It used to be Bill Clinton that was having, and it's like, can you? Your middle school brain, just take another step and think like, are you applying a different standard to the female candidate in the race? Like Kamala was being hit over the head for being a slut. They were calling her a slut right out of the gate. And these guys don't even think for a second, like, am I applying a double standard here?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like middle schooler brain. It's totally unserious. And the other thing is, at one point he says there at the beginning, like, "Oh, we're the idiots," and my response to that is, "Yes, you absolutely are the idiots," because they were like, we were screaming from the top of our lungs for so long before the election. You guys do know Trump's in the Epstein files, right? You do know that we have audio tape of Jeffrey Epstein saying he was Trump's best friend for a decade. There's over 30 sexual assault allegations against Trump. Him and Melania first had sex on the Lolita Express. This was all reported. We know all of this. He's been on the jet 7 different times. There's countless pictures of him with Epstein. Michael Wolff has described in disgusting detail pictures he's seen that Epstein had of Trump with girls of an uncertain age. We talked about all of this. I was screaming about
Alex
this.
Acosta, his labor secretary, was the one who made the deal to have Epstein basically walk from all of those in Florida.
So these guys, what do? They just go with the vibes. The vibes were high. The vibes were pro-Trump before the election, so they hop on that bandwagon. And then the people who were correct all along, we were telling them all along and warning them, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, turns out we misread the situation. Yeah, and give credit to the people who were correct all along.
It is fascinating to me, too, though, that that so much of, and we see this across the board. I mean, even, within the context of the what's her name? Batatas. I can't remember.
Batya Unger Sargon.
Yes. Like, who was pounding the drum about how Donald Trump is a true populist. And, and then of course this bill gets passed. And she is out there now, like her entire premise about this so-called populism could not have been more destroyed. Like I don't think there is a single piece of legislation that has passed in my lifetime that is 180 degrees away from populism. You have dispossessed 17 million low-income people from healthcare. You're going to cut Medicare as well, which is going to dispossess more low-income people. You are dispossessing millions of people off of food assistance. You are pushing a massive upward redistribution of wealth to the wealthiest in this country by all of the tax provisions. I mean, there's no other bill that is greater. And here she is now just looking to the real problem, the real expression of populism is to attack immigrants.
That's exactly right.
Here we have a clip of this.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Go ahead.
narrative on the left that they're taking jobs that Americans will not do or don't want to do. And it's absolute nonsense. There's not a single industry in the United States that's done by a majority illegal migrant labor. The highest rates are about 30% in agriculture, which means 72% of people working farms are American citizens. And it is just so disgusting to say these are jobs that are beneath an American. Turns out Americans don't think that. When you have mass deportations and a closed border, employers have to pay more wages. And guess what? Americans are happy to take those jobs. You look at the 1970s.
Let's just stop. Let's stop here for a second. I don't know that woman's ever been on a farm in her entire life. There is no doubt that there are, 70% of the farm workers may very well be, American citizens. But I got news for you. They are not out there picking almonds. They are not out there picking peaches. Play this clip that we have from some farmers who were asked about this in the wake of these deportations and detentions.
Keith Smith says most immigration workers left after the law took effect, so this potato farmer hired Americans. Problem is, he says, most show up late, work slower, and are ready to head home after lunch. Some even quit after just one day out in the field.
There's a Hispanic man that works for us, and I say, he's 52, and he'll make anywhere from $70 to $100 a day. I said, if you can keep up with him and do a good job, you can make that. But they're not physically in shape to do it, and probably not mentally tough enough to do it. Some of them.
I mean, look, the fact of the matter is if you come from a farming community in Mexico and you have been raised in that environment, this type of work is not as it's incredibly challenging, but it's not as challenging because you're experienced at it. I mean, this is it is fascinating to me that this is like even remotely controversial. It's possible in a couple of generations we could go back to where we have more sort of farmers, particularly ones that are going to work on these sort of huge farms. There are rural areas in New York State where there's a lot of farming in Hudson Valley. But these aren't massive farms. These are local farm type of situations. But this whole right populism just evaporated 2 weeks ago. And the only thing they have to sort of push back on Trump now is he didn't release the Epstein files.
It's incredible. Batya, you know how Trump has those hats that say Trump was right about everything? We need to make hats that say Batya is wrong about everything. Because her whole thesis, and she's been screaming this for a year now, is that Trump is the true populist and the Democrats are the true elitists. And I did a video on this a while ago before the election, I think, laying out this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because if you look at his record, he killed increased overtime pay for millions of people. He killed the $15 minimum wage for federal contractors that Biden had put into place. He got rid of that. He opposes the PRO Act. He opposes minimum wage increases. He destroyed the CFPB. He outsourced 200,000 jobs in his first term. In his second term, he already killed 115,000 jobs by killing some of the Biden legislation like the CHIPS Act. I mean, now, of course, as you pointed out, Sam, he cut Medicaid massively, where 16, 17 million people are going to lose their health care. This also effectively cuts Medicare, the big, beautiful bill, because it forces a sequester because it violates PAYGO. And so on every front, you could give me, honestly, and I mean this, the worst Democrat, the worst one you could think of, Manchin, Sinema, whoever, way more populist than Trump and any Republican. I mean, look at Josh Hawley, who he was, we really can't cut Medicaid. That's a horrible idea. We should definitely not cut Medicaid. Then immediately turns around and votes to cut Medicaid. Right-wing populism is not a thing. It is completely and utterly fake. There was a time where you could maybe make an argument that, hey, if they mean what they say, then maybe, but we are the results are in. We've had so long now to actually test whether or not they mean it, and they don't. I will grant them that Thomas Massey, there's a libertarian strain on the right, like with Ron Paul every now and then he fucks the party.
There is a guy, and I got news for you. Thomas Massey does not care about cutting people off of Medicaid.
Oh, no. Yeah, the libertarians are horrible on economic policy.
Anti-war, and he may have a principled decision about, like, sort of like, we shouldn't increase the debt, which I also think is a completely, like, the idea we shouldn't increase the debt in an inefficient way that does not invest in the country, but rather allows private individuals to sort of like reap the benefit of deficit spending. But Ron Paul said on a stage, if that guy doesn't have health insurance, they die on the street. That's what's happened.
Right. That's right. No, the point that I was making is that there is only one 99% of the Republican Party, especially the elected officials, are MAGA, full stop. It's a cult. They'll go wherever Trump wants them to go. The 1% that does buck him every now and then are not the populist right, because the populist right is fake. It doesn't exist.
No.
There's a libertarian strain that on some issues, some of the time, will maybe cut in a different direction. But the point you're making is also correct, which is libertarian and populist is not the same anyway. Libertarians are the worst on economics because they want to get rid of the entire social safety net. But my point is, people need to wake up to the fact that the whole idea of the populist right is a scam. It's completely fake. They just lie, and then they turn around and vote like any George W. Bush era neocon free marketeer.
Yeah, well, I mean, Josh Hawley's state, right? He's the senator from Missouri. I'm not making that up, right? It just came out today, this story, that the Republican governor, it's official, has repealed the paid sick leave ballot measure that was voted on by upwards, close to 60% of Missouri voters in the fall. And they just basically, it would have helped over 700,000 private sector workers. And despite the fact that voters voted for it overwhelmingly, and it was taken to they tried to fight it in the state Supreme Court, unanimously upheld it, the Republican governor is doing away with it. Like, this is, when we talk about our democracy, I can't think of a more undemocratic action, and that happens from the Republican Party. That's the Republican Party, and it's not MAGA. It's not like Hakeem Jeffries keeps giving these quotes, calling them MAGA extremists. Would this governor be a MAGA extremist? Because, I mean, he's not like right under Donald Trump. No, he's just a Republican. So call them Republicans. It's insane.
Yeah, except the Lincoln Project guys are now apparently like loving Che Guevara. I don't know if you guys saw that video that they released.
No.
Some of the never Trump Republicans, it's kind of amazing that some of the never Trump Republicans have now just morphed into like very aggressive leftists somehow. So that's the only thing that gives me some hope. But in terms of, the elected officials, they're the same as they ever were, except if anything, they're just worse. And they've now mastered the art of just lying. It's almost like they realized within the last decade that like we could just say the opposite of what we do and kind of get away with it because nobody's going to call us on it and the media is not going to hold us accountable. And that's what they do. The whole party is built on lies. They are a fascist robber baron party, and they just lie as part of the program.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, getting back to what you had said earlier about Trump saying one thing and Stephen Miller doing another, or the bill doing another. I think he just realized, like, I should just say the thing that is going to be received the best and let other people figure out what the reality is of it. I don't even know if he even thinks that much about, I don't think that calculation that I just walked out actually goes through his mind. I think he's just like, I know not to cut Medicare or Medicaid, so we're not cutting Medicaid, even though it has no relationship to what they're actually doing. I just don't think it matters to him. Like he said today, we had a clip of him saying, like, a year ago, nobody was talking about America. Now we're hot. We're the hottest country. And it's true. There's probably a lot of people going like, hey, we should not deal with America anymore. Or, hey, America, we're no longer going to follow their policy. Or, we're going to look to China to, establish the, but it is true. If you look at a word cloud, America may come up more often than it did a year ago. Kyle Kulinski, real pleasure. We will, of course, put links to both the Kyle Kulinski show and Crystal Kyle and Friends in our podcast and YouTube description. We could do this for another 6 hours, but I I don't have that time. I got it, or the energy.
I hear you, man. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yep.
All
Thanks,
right,
Kyle.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.